Hi, I'm Kirk Scott with Scotty's True Value in Rigby, Idaho. An informed voter is a good voter. We have sponsored this debate so Jefferson County voters can be more well informed. So please tune in.
Hello, I'm Nate Eaton with EastIdahoNews.com. We welcome you to this political town hall meeting here in Jefferson County. We have a packed house here at the Harwood Elementary School Gymnasium. Tonight we will be discussing a few different races here in the county. These discussions are sponsored by Scotty's True Value. We have the two people here tonight who are running for the Central District Fire Commissioner in Sub-District 3. Lori Newton is here, as well as Roger Anderson. Interesting fact about this race is that their race was actually thrown out last November because their names did not appear on the ballot in certain parts of the district. So we appreciate them joining us. We will give you each 60 seconds tonight, and we'll start with you, Ms. Newton.
Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. My name is Lori Newton, and I'm running for Fire Commissioner in Zone 3. I've lived in the Jefferson County area for 27 years, mostly in the Ryrie area. I am married to Jim Newton, and we have 3 children. I have worked in the finance and securities industry for over 25 years, and I am a current volunteer with Central Fire District, serving my community for the past 10 years this month. I am an active volunteer in my community, serving on the Civilian Resource Committee with the Sheriff's Office for about a year now. I became a volunteer with Central Fire District because of a personal experience I had 13 years ago. When I was pregnant with my son Jet, I developed a blood clot in my lung, and my husband was working out of town. I heard in the community that our fire department was understaffed, so instead of taking any chances of calling 911 and nobody showing up, I drove myself to the hospital with a life-threatening issue. I told myself if I make it through this ordeal, I would step up and become a volunteer to help others in my community. The job of a fire commissioner is to manage our tax dollars wisely and to reduce and eliminate liabilities to the district. I strongly believe with my background in finance and securities, is that it?
You can finish your sentence if you want.
I would add value to the current fire commission. I have a great understanding and respect for hard-earned money and a great respect and knowledge for compliance.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Anderson.
Hi, my name's Roger Anderson. I'm running for Fire Commissioner in the Zone 3. I've lived in the Ryrie area for the past 21 years. I'm married to Teresa Anderson, and we have 6 kids between us and 15 grandkids. It was said that if they all voted, I would win by the family members. I'm running for this position because I have an interest in the fire district and the ongoings and the training and the things that go on in the fire district. I have been a professional firefighter for the past 30 years. I have recently retired from the Idaho Falls Fire Department, and currently am a base supervisor for Air Idaho Rescue at the Driggs Base. I also was on the board of directors for Professional Ski Instructors America for 6 years, and we managed a very large budget at that time. And as a fire commissioner, I think it's important that we represent the patrons of the county, and we are there to take care of the funds and wisely spend the money that is appropriated through the county.
Thank you. We now have 5 questions for you. You'll have 90 seconds to respond to each question. It will be the same question for each of you. We have a timer over here. She will hold up a 60-second cue, a 30-second cue, and a 10-second cue. When you see the 10, if you can begin to wrap up your answer, or you'll hear that lovely alarm. Mr. Anderson, we'll start with you for our first question. One of you should have been elected to this seat last November. Instead, your race has been extended another 6 months. What's changed in the race, if anything, since then, and how are you more ready today than last November?
Well, the race in November was a very small race. The big change in this race is now we are with all of you people, and we are we're on the ballot with the primaries. So it's going to be a lot bigger voting demographic, and we're going to have to get out and talk to people and tell them what we stand for and what we're going to do for the county. Some of the things that I think that we should do is the things that have changed at this point. There's been some things brought up to the commission that are vital, and some of the things that brought up were helpful. Some of the things that were brought up were, I wouldn't say detrimental, but it brought out to light some things that maybe we need to look at as a commission. And I think we need to keep looking into those things and see if we can rectify some things and continue on with the good service that's been provided.
Thank you. Ms. Newton.
I agree with Roger with the demographics and just being a lot bigger of an election. One of the things I did, I prepared myself pretty well for the first one. I knew I was going to be running, and I worked pretty hard at it. One of the things that I worked on between the last election and this election is education. I really looked into statutes and just went through a lot of minutes, a lot of PIR requests, things like that, and just to educate myself to see exactly where we're at within the district. So,
excellent. A lot of people have no idea what a fire commissioner is. What do you feel is the main responsibility of a fire commissioner, and how will you work to fulfill that responsibility? Ms. Newton, we'll start with you.
Well, like I said in my speech, a fire commissioner, we're over your budget, we're over the money. It's important that we spend that money wisely. It's really important too, the education. Even as a fire commissioner, there's a lot of trainings out there. I believe that it's important that everybody gets trained in exactly what the rules are when dealing with public funds. It can get pretty sticky in some situations. And like I said, just education. Education is really important for everybody.
Roger Anderson.
I agree with Lori in that we have the responsibility to take care of the funds that is appropriated by the county for the fire district. It's our job to make sure that the volunteers have the equipment, the training, and the know-how to perform their jobs in EMS, in fire, rescue, and hazmat. And it's our job to make sure that the chief and the assistant chief is doing those things that would keep us safe as a county, and that we oversee the ongoings of the fire department. They oversee the day-to-day operations.
Thank you. Mr. Anderson, we'll start with you on this question. What do you think is the biggest problem facing the Central Fire District, and how will you fix it?
The biggest problem I see that's facing the fire district, as we know, as some of you have seen on advertisements on TV, they're always advertising for volunteers in Idaho, and you see firefighters, they're advertising for more and more firefighters. Our biggest problem is we expect a lot out of our volunteers. Just to become an EMT takes a 150-hour course. We've had a few people go through the course lately, and they started in January, and they are just barely finishing now, and they're doing it on their own. And people have a tough time finding that time and commitment to do that. So we're gonna have to, and our biggest problem is our daytime coverage in some of the outlying areas. People, we're just having a difficult time covering Monday through Friday, 8 to 5, when people are out supporting their families. We're going to have to start thinking outside the box on how do we rectify this problem. And there are some solutions. One might be to pay a pager time for the time for a daytime. Shelley Fire and EMS, they pay a pager time from 8 to 5 Monday through Friday. It's something that we could look at and see if we have the money in the budget to do so. But we're going to have to recruit and see if we can get more people out to help with the volunteerism in our area.
Lori Newton.
I agree with Roger on that. I looked into the same thing. What are the other surrounding areas doing to keep and attract new help? And that was one of them. Shelley does pay to be on the clock. But one of the other things that I've noticed is just between the last time that Roger and I ran against each other, it brought an awareness to the community. People didn't really realize. And since then, we have had a couple of new recruits on the Ryrie Station that are just now finishing up their EMS. They'll be on the summer schedule, which is great. And just in the past couple of days, I've had a couple more people call me wanting to fill out applications and get started. So a lot of it is just educating the community.
Ms. Newton, we'll start with you on this next question. How do you plan to develop a strong relationship between yourself, should you be elected, and the fire district leaders and volunteers?
I build structure, trainings. I would like I said, I'd like to see even the commissioners go to trainings. I'd like to see our leadership go to trainings. Would recommend that We learn more in leadership skills. I think building those kind of relationships is going to take time, but I think it's doable. I think it's doable through training and be fine.
Mr. Anderson?
Well, I think that we, as commissioners, we need to be a little bit more involved and hands-on on some of and being involved in the trainings that go on in the outlying areas in the Rigby station. Each station, if you don't know, there's one in Louisville, one in Manan, and one in Ryrie, and one here in Rigby. And they each have their own training schedules. And I think when I was a commissioner, I was appointed, and I was a commissioner for a little while, and I attempted and made a good effort to be at the trainings in Ryrie and some in Rigby. With my experience, I also think that I can help with training and be able to lift the level of training in the department with all my experience, and I have a lot of teaching experience. In fact, recently I taught a class at Station 1 here last week, and it was very well received. I teach for Air Idaho all over. I think we just need to be a little bit more involved. We need to be out there with the volunteers so that they see us, we're part of them, and that they know and respect us and want us to be there. Thank you.
Our final question before we take a few audience questions, we'll start with you, Mr. Anderson. Why are you the right person for the job?
Well, tonight is basically a job interview for fire commissioner. And as I put out my resume, I feel like I have the resume to do this job. I think I have the most qualifications, and I have the most time involved. 30 years as a professional firefighter, 17 of those years in leadership positions in the Idaho Falls Fire Department. Being a leader with Air Idaho, I think my resume stands for itself. I was a business owner in the Ryrie area for 15 years. My sons and I operated a cabinet business in the Ryrie area for 15 years, and they took it over, and then in the crunch it went, they had issues. So anyway, I think if you look at the resume, I have the resume to do the job. Thank you.
Ms. Newton.
I just believe with my background in finance and securities, I understand money. I mean, and that's what the job is about, is money and leadership. I have a great respect for money. I deal with it every day. And knowledge and compliance. This is a regulated business, and we're a municipality, and there's a lot of things that go along with that. A lot of rules and regulations. I'm willing to learn all of those and get it all figured out, make sure we're on the right track, make sure that we are taking care of the liabilities on the department. So.
All right. Well, we have 3, maybe 4. We have a few audience questions. We'll give you both 60 seconds to respond to these questions. Ms. Newton, we will start with you. This is from Audrey. What is the weakest attribute you bring to this position, and what have you done to overcome it?
Public speaking. Notes.
Sir?
My weakest attribute would be probably the ongoings and the way that the commission is supposed to run. Just knowing, and like Lori, I've studied our SOGs and some of our parliamentary procedures, so that I am familiar with the way things are supposed to be run in commissioner meetings.
This is a question I believe you both could answer right away. Are there currently any women serving in leadership positions within the Central Fire District?
Who do you want to answer?
That you know of?
I know of 2, the Assistant Chief, Carl Anderson's wife, and his sister as well. And that's it, I think.
Yeah, I don't
That's
all I know.
Okay. This question comes from L. Benyon. For the past 2 years, there have been some incidents of faulty equipment brought to the attention of the public. If voted in as commissioner, how are you going to make sure the equipment is in tip-top shape, and how are you going to make sure those types of incidents don't happen again? Mr. Anderson, we'll start with you.
Well, this has been something that's been talked a lot about in fire commissioner meeting over the last few months. It's our responsibility to make sure that the equipment is the very best that we can afford and that is the best that is out there available for our department to use. Here's what I think needs to happen. I think that the volunteers, one of the issues that happened is an equipment was not checked for a period of time. That's going to change if I am elected commissioner. I will make sure that the volunteers, if they are on that day, that is their job to check that equipment and make sure the equipment that they are going to use for life-saving stuff is up, ready to go, and ready to perform. And as doing this job for the last 35 years, not one day did I ever not go to work and not go check my equipment.
And Ms. Newton.
I would handle it a little bit differently, but close to what he said. I would recommend updating the standard operating guidelines to include maintaining our equipment properly and to keep clear, written, precise records of this. If you didn't document it, it did not happen. And again, this keeps our volunteers and our community safe while protecting the district from liabilities. So that's, as for going down and checking equipment, sometimes you might get off work late. And you might be on a night shift and you get off your full-time job, or you're leaving early in the morning. You're not going to necessarily go down and be able to check equipment. But by the standard operating guidelines as they are written, it's the responsibility of leadership. Now, I don't think it should fall all on leadership. I think when we're using these, this equipment in trainings, or sometimes even just familiarizing yourself with it, making sure you still, it's not our everyday job. It would be important to pull it off the truck, but at the same time, make sure that there's checklists and it's written down when's the last time it was checked. And that would eliminate a lot of the problems. I mean, we have fire equipment that's got the same issue, so.
All right, our final question from the audience before closing statements comes from Pat. How will you make the operations of the fire district more transparent and accountable? We'll start with you, Ms. Newton.
I've seen him come a long ways in the past little while with the transparency. There's been a lot more people attending the meetings. I didn't exactly agree with the way they were handling the minutes at first, with just writing it down. Somebody takes notes and then they transfer it over to a Word file. But for the first time last week, when we had a fire commissioners meeting, they were audio recording. I knew they had the capability to audio record, but that was the first time that they had ever done it. And I believe that they're probably going to do that going forward, and that's huge, So, and an open mic, which they've had, so they're working on it.
And Mr. Anderson.
I agree that we need to be a little more transparent, although I think that, some of the things that's been said has been said that we aren't transparent with the budget. The budget's been printed. They have an auditor that does it once a year. I think they've tried to be really transparent with that. We have had a lot more people come to the commissioners' meetings in the last 6 months, which is really good, because before that we weren't getting anybody there to give us any input. And the audio tape is a good thing that we need to help keep transparency, because we're there for you. We represent you, and we need to be able to, you can listen to the transcripts, read the transcripts, and ask us questions. And there would be no misconstruing anything that was said or done in the meetings at the fire district.
Thank you, sir. We will now give each of you 60 seconds for a closing statement. Ms. Newton, we will start with you.
I just want to say I'm very passionate about the fire district. I want to do what is right and represent my fellow volunteers as well as the taxpayers of the fire district. If elected, I would continue to serve my community as a volunteer and firefighter and EMT while fulfilling my duties to you as your fire commissioner. For more information, you can visit my website, lori2015.com. Thank you.
Mr. Anderson.
I too share a passion in firefighting. I've done it for the past 35 years. I have a strong desire to make things better. Everywhere I've gone and done, I've always tried to make things better in the fire industry and the training of the firefighters. If elected, I will still continue helping with trainings in the fire district. And if not elected, I will still help with trainings in the fire district. It's been asked how come I haven't been a firefighter for the past 20 years. I've worked 2 jobs and been home about 40% of my nights, and I didn't ever feel like I could take up that time for my family. But I am at a point now where I'm a lot freer and able to give more and be able to help with the training and the ongoings of the fire district, and look forward to serving you.
Roger Anderson, Lori Newton, thank you very much, both running for the Central District Fire Commission in Region 3. We have information about both candidates here on this page, as well as links to our other community forums. We appreciate Scotty's True Value, who sponsored this conversation. Again, Election Day is May 17th. We would encourage you to vote. Again, thank you very much.
Thank you.
Hi, I'm Kirk Scott with Scotty's True Value in Rigby, Idaho. An informed voter is a good voter. We have sponsored this debate so Jefferson County voters can be more well informed. So please tune in.